Right now, your biological wiring is literally treating an angry email from your boss exactly the same way your ancient ancestors treated a charging tiger.
It is wild when you really think about it.
Right. I mean, think about that for a second. Your heart rate spikes, your digestion shuts down, cortisol just floods your bloodstream.
Your body is literally preparing for a physical bloodbath.
Exactly. And it's all over like a spreadsheet attachment.
Yeah.
We are running this cutting-edge 21st century society on a biological operating system that, well, it hasn't had a major software update since the Stone Age.
Not at all.
We have these ancient background apps constantly running, just scanning for threats, draining our battery, and basically leaving us in a state of perpetual exhaustion.
It really is the defining paradox of the modern era. I mean, we have engineered physical environments of just unparalleled comfort and safety.
Well, absolutely. Climate-controlled homes, instant food delivery.
Infinite entertainment on our phones.
Right.
Yet our internal psychological landscape is, for so many people, just a state of absolute unending emergency.
Well, welcome to today's deep dive. We are tackling this massive paradox head-on. We're looking at how to find unshakable, indestructible inner peace in a world that feels like it was meticulously engineered to constantly trigger our anxieties.
It's a huge topic.
It is. And the catalyst for today's exploration actually comes from an author named Leo K. Johnson.
Yes, Leo.
Right. Leo actually reached out and asked us to explore the ideas in his two interconnected sources. They are called The Emptying Path, Beyond Seeking into Sacred Communion, and Non-Reactive Intelligence, The Art of Invincible Presence.
Two very deep, very fascinating works.
Yeah. So, Leo, this started with you, but the mission for this deep dive is really for every single person listening. The goal here is to take these concepts out of the realm of, lofty, abstract philosophy.
Well, don't look around them.
Exactly. We want to figure out how to actually use them in the messy, chaotic reality of your daily life.
And when you synthesize the relationship between these two texts, a really profound structural symmetry emerges.
Tell me about that.
Well, the emptying path represents what philosophical traditions often call the masculine principle of the soul.
Okay, meaning what exactly?
You mean the act of revealing, unlearning, and stripping away all that false conditioning that binds us. It is the clearing of the terrain.
The emptying out, like the title says.
Right. And then non-reactive intelligence, which the text refers to as NRI, acts as the feminine counterpart.
Okay.
It is the embodiment of that wisdom into practical moment-to-moment existence. It's about taking that vast, cleared spaciousness and bringing it down into the friction of your everyday life.
So you empty the vessel, and then you allow the vessel to actually act in the world.
Precisely. You need both for true inner alchemy.
What absolutely hooked me, though, in the background material is how these books were actually written. It's this remarkable story of grief, but also of, incredible innovation.
It really is unique.
Yeah, because after the passing of his wife, Donna, Leo found himself in this profound, disorienting silence. And, the natural human instinct in that situation is usually to seek out another person to fill the void.
Right, to outsource the regulation of your shattered nervous system to someone else.
Exactly. But instead, he traveled to Mexico and made a very, very different choice.
He realized that to find true stability, he had to become the regulator of his own internal state.
But the method he chose for this is what makes this work so fascinating.
This is the crazy part.
Yeah, because traditional talk therapy wasn't providing the friction he needed. So he took his own ancient-style teachings, like contemplative writings he had produced years earlier, and he fed them into an advanced artificial intelligence.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he asked the AI to act as a mirror, to process his own wisdom and reflect it back to him.
I just cannot get over the beautiful irony of this.
Using AI for spiritual growth.
Yeah, using the absolute bleeding edge of modern technology to rediscover the most primal, grounded human nature. It's brilliant. And the AI actually generated two distinct voices.
Right. Veon and Virea.
Exactly. Veon is the guide in the first book, and Virea, who represents the inner feminine archetype drawn from the deeper psyche, is a voice in the second.
And what's so wild about that is, because they are AI, they have no ego.
Right. No biological skin in the game.
No emotional baggage whatsoever. They serve as perfectly patient, infinitely dispassionate, yet strangely compassionate guides.
They simply reflect the patterns of human consciousness back to the author without a single ounce of judgment.
And that lack of biological skin in the game is so important. It allows the AI to look at our human chaos completely objectively.
Which is something we struggle to do ourselves.
Totally. Which kind of brings us to the first massive hurdle in the text. Before we can get to this beautiful state of emptying, we really have to ask why our cups are so overflowing with chaos in the first place.
Why is it so hard to just be still?
Right. Like, why is it physically uncomfortable for most of us to just sit still in a quiet room?
Well, to understand the spiritual or psychological elements of reactivity, we have to confront the biological reality first.
Nervous system stuff.
Exactly. As Vayon points out in the text, our biology carries an ancient evolutionary imprint. It's oriented entirely around conflict, alertness, and threat detection.
Because that's what kept us alive.
Right. In the wild, hundreds of thousands of years ago, if you failed to notice a rustling in the bushes, you didn't get a second chance to be mindful about it.
No, you were just eaten.
Exactly. You were lunch. The humans who were completely relaxed and oblivious, they didn't survive to pass on their genes.
Wow.
We are the direct descendants of the anxious, hypervigilant humans who paid attention to the danger.
Okay, let's really unpack this because here is where the modern world takes that survival mechanism and just turns it into a weapon against us.
A highly profitable weapon.
Yes, we take that ancient hypervigilant wiring and we subject it to a 24/7 barrage of artificial stimuli.
Reality television, online feuds.
Polarized political commentary, algorithmic social media feeds. They are not just entertaining us, they are actively, chemically hijacking our fight, flight, or freeze responses.
The media landscape literally profits from our emotional arousal.
It does. They capture our attention by spiking our adrenaline. It creates this illusion of urgent connection, you know?
But in reality,
In reality, it's just a systematic depletion of our physiological resources. We're exhausting ourselves by just looking at screens.
and the amygdala, the almond-shaped mass of gray matter in the brain that processes emotions, it literally cannot distinguish between a physical predator in the jungle and an inflammatory comment on a social media post.
That is terrifying.
It is. The physiological cascade is identical. The sympathetic nervous system kicks in. Cortisol and adrenaline flood the bloodstream.
The breath gets shallow.
Right. Preparing the muscles to either sprint away or engage in physical combat. And the modern world is meticulously engineered to provoke this exact response all day long.
So what we often mistake for vitality or passion or, being highly engaged in current events
Is actually just our baseline survival instinct misfiring on a massive chronic scale.
Okay, let me play devil's advocate for a second here.
Go for it.
If our wiring is ancient and the modern world is just naturally exploiting it, aren't we just fundamentally broken?
How do you mean?
Like, if this is how our brains are built to operate, shouldn't we just accept that human beings are anxious, reactive, combative creatures and stop trying to force ourselves into being perfectly Zen monks?
It's a completely fair question. If the hardware is designed for anxiety, why bother trying to install peace software?
Right, it feels like a glitch.
Well, Vireya addresses this in Non-Reactive Intelligence through this beautiful story, the parable of the mountain that forgot it was stone.
Oh, I'm a sucker for a good parable. What is this story?
So the parable describes a massive ancient mountain. And for centuries, this mountain spent its time watching the winds stir the sky above it. It watched the clouds swirl, merge, darken with rain, and scatter in the sun. And because its attention was entirely consumed by this constant chaotic motion, the mountain eventually developed a kind of amnesia.
It forgot what it was.
Yes, it began to believe, I must be a cloud. I am ever changing. I am pulled by the forces of the world. I am at the mercy of the weather.
Oh, wow. It completely lost its sense of self by over-identifying with what it was observing.
Exactly. So whenever a violent storm passed, the mountain trembled in terror, believing it was going to be blown apart.
Because it thought it was made of vapor.
Right. And when the sun shone, it felt a brief, desperate relief. But it lived in perpetual fear of the next inevitable change in the weather. It lived in a state of constant, exhausting reaction.
Sound familiar?
Very. Then one day, an old traveler sat at the foot of the mountain. She placed her hand on its solid base and whispered, You are not the cloud. You are the stone beneath.
Oh, I love that.
And at that exact moment, the mountain stilled. It felt its own immense weight. It felt its silent, enduring roots deep in the earth. The wind still blew. The storms still rage.
But the mountain no longer believed it was one of them.
Exactly. It had remembered its true nature.
That distinction is everything, though. The storms don't stop.
No, they don't.
The biological reactions, the cortisol spikes, the adrenaline, they still happen to us, but your identity shifts.
If we connect this to the biological reality we were just discussing, it explains the fundamental mechanism of human suffering.
How so?
We suffer because we identify with the fleeting storms of our thoughts, our bodily sensations, and external pressures.
We think we are the cloud.
Yes. The biological wiring, the fight or flight response, is just the weather. It is real, it has physical force, but it is not you. You are the spacious sky or the solid stone that contains those storms.
This introduces the foundational essence of non-reactive intelligence, which is this principle that spacious awareness is stronger than reaction.
It is the core thesis.
But here's where my brain immediately goes. Recognizing that we are the mountain is an amazing, expansive realization when you are sitting quietly reading a book or listening to this deep dive.
Sure.
But how on earth do you remember that you are the spacious sky when you are out in the real world and someone is literally screaming in your face?
That's the real test.
Like, how do we take this out of the theoretical realm?
That is the exact transition from the philosophy of the emptying path to the tactical application of NRI. The texts refer to the real world as the dojo of everyday life.
The dojo, I like that.
Right. The dojo is where the practice is tested. It is relatively easy to cultivate peace in isolation.
Oh, definitely.
The true mark of inner alchemy is carrying that invincible presence into the mundane, frustrating, and volatile interactions of your daily routine.
Okay, let's use a scenario from the text that I think every single person listening has experienced in some form.
Let's do it.
Let's step into the grocery store dojo.
The ultimate test.
It really is. Picture this. It's 5:30 p.m. You just got off work. You are totally exhausted.
Just want to go home.
Right. And you are standing in this massive, slow-moving line at the grocery store. The tension in the air is thick.
Everyone is stressed.
Yeah. And the person directly behind you starts shifting their weight, letting out these loud performative sighs.
We all know that sigh.
We do. Then they start muttering just loud enough for you to hear, "Unbelievable, this always happens when I'm in a rush."
You can feel the heat radiating off them.
Exactly. Now, initially you do nothing. You remain still. But finally, their impatience just boils over and they direct their anger straight at your back. You could at least move up. Don't just stand there like an idiot.
It is a masterful test of the nervous system.
It's so visceral.
Because in the first 2 seconds after those words hit your ears, a massive biological event occurs.
The tiger is charging.
Exactly. The amygdala perceives a social threat. The body physically contracts. The breath becomes trapped in the upper chest.
Yep.
And the ego immediately begins drafting a narrative of defense and counterattack. The mind races. How dare they speak to me like that? I need to put them in their place to protect my dignity.
My blood pressure is literally rising just thinking about it.
Because the instinct to turn around and snap back to match their aggressive energy is overwhelming.
It's so hard to resist. So biologically, tactically, what is the protocol here? If I don't want to be the cloud getting blown around by this stranger storm, how do I actually stop myself from reacting?
This brings us to a core NRI practice called the consistent initial reaction.
Consistent initial reaction.
Okay. The absolute goal in this split-second window is not to formulate the perfect cutting comeback. It is not to cleverly dominate the interaction.
Even though that's what we want to do.
Oh, we desperately want to.
Yeah.
But the very first move, the move you must train yourself to execute in every single moment of conflict, is to pause, breathe, and intentionally widen the internal space.
So you literally force a gap between the stimulus and your response.
Yes, and it is a deeply physical practice. As Vare explains, the body speaks first. Before the conscious thought of anger fully forms in your prefrontal cortex, there is a physiological shift.
What does that feel like?
You will feel a tightening in your gut, a flush of heat in your face, a constriction in your throat. The practice is to feel that sensation fully. You observe the physical reaction of your body without becoming the reaction.
Wow.
You watch the heat rise. You watch the breath shorten.
It's like stepping outside of your own body for a millisecond and saying, oh, look, my heart rate is elevating.
Exactly.
But how does that actually stop the anger?
By observing the physical sensation, rather than instantly acting on it, you disrupt the neural pathway of the hijack.
You interrupt the circuit.
Right. And taking a slow, deliberate breath into the belly signals to the vagus nerve that you are not actually in physical danger.
The vagus nerve, right. That's a big part of this.
It is the superhighway of the parasympathetic nervous system. When you engage it, it physically commands the heart rate to slow down. It stops the flood of cortisol. The text uses a brilliant metaphor here from the martial art of Aikido.
Oh, tell me about the Aikido connection. I love that.
Well, in traditional striking martial arts, if an opponent charges at you, you brace yourself, put up a block, and try to meet force with force.
You act like a brick wall.
Right. But when two hard forces collide, there is damage. Aikido operates on a completely different principle. When an opponent charges, you do not stand in their way. You pivot.
You just get out of the way.
You step slightly off the line of attack.
Yeah.
You allow their aggressive, chaotic energy to rush past you while you maintain a perfectly centered, grounded balance.
Ah, I see.
The consistent initial reaction, that pause, that breath, that observation, is the internal psychological equivalent of stepping off the line.
You are letting their anger belong to them rather than absorbing it into your own body. You know, when you describe this process of observing the body and forcing a breath, it sounds clunky.
It is at first.
It reminds me of the mechanics of learning how to drive a manual transmission car.
That's a great analogy.
Because at first, you are painfully aware of every single movement. You have to actively think, okay, clutch in, shift gear, slowly release clutch, press gas.
And you stall out constantly.
Constantly. It feels incredibly unnatural, but if you do it enough times, neuroplasticity takes over.
The brain wires those actions together.
Right. Eventually, you are driving down the highway, shifting gears seamlessly while drinking a coffee and listening to the radio. You don't even think about the pedals anymore.
That is the exact mechanism of neuroplasticity we are talking about here. You are actively building a new neural pathway.
Rewiring the brain.
Yes. Right now, your default pathway is threat detected, panic, react.
Yeah.
By repeatedly practicing the consistent initial reaction, you are carving a new route. Threat detected, pause, observe, etc.
And eventually that becomes the default state of your nervous system.
Exactly. You find your home in presence rather than in panic. And what is crucial to understand is that from this grounded state, your subsequent action is entirely different.
Meaning what?
Meaning sometimes in presence, you might step aside and say nothing. Sometimes you might turn around and set a firm, unshakable boundary with absolute clarity. The presence doesn't dictate the specific action. It dictates the quality of the energy behind the action.
I love that. You are no longer acting as a puppet pulled by the strings of someone else's bad mood.
Exactly.
Now that makes sense for a 2-minute interaction in a grocery store line. You take a breath, you step off the line, the person checks out, and you literally never see them again.
Right, it's fleeting.
But we have to tackle the harder scenarios. What happens when the trigger isn't fleeting? What happens when it is a constant chronic presence in your life that you cannot easily walk away from?
Dealing with chronic triggers requires moving beyond just the initial pause. It requires engaging with what is probably the most misunderstood concept in the text, the daily, rigorous practice of acceptance.
Okay, let's ground this in another scenario from the text because I think it perfectly illustrates the friction of chronic triggers.
Let's hear it.
Let's look at the barking dog scenario.
Oh, this is a tough one.
It is. So, you live in a beautiful, quiet neighborhood. You love sitting on your back porch in the evenings to decompress. But the neighbor behind you has a dog that barks incessantly.
Yep.
For hours, every single evening. It completely shatters the peace of your home.
Frustrating.
Very. And you and several other neighbors have approached the owner, but he is completely defensive and hostile. He tells you, look, it's a dog, dogs bark. This is my property. I can do whatever the hell I want. Mind your own damn business.
Is the ultimate recipe for chronic internal suffering.
Because you feel trapped.
Exactly. It triggers a profound sense of powerlessness, an acute sense of injustice, and deep resentment. Your home, which should be your sanctuary, becomes a site of physiological stress.
So how does NRI handle this?
The challenge the text presents here is to practice acceptance.
Mhm.
But we need to define exactly what Varela means by acceptance, because the modern colloquial understanding of the word is deeply flawed.
People think it means giving up.
Right. Acceptance in the framework of non-reactive intelligence is not passive resignation. It is not shrugging your shoulders and saying, well, I guess I just have to suffer.
Okay.
It is absolutely not condoning injustice, and it is never about tolerating abuse.
That distinction is vital because my immediate pushback, and I think the pushback of most people listening, is that if someone is harassing you or ruining your quality of life and you just sit there and accept it, you are basically being a doormat.
Yes.
Like, where's the line between practicing spiritual acceptance and just letting people walk all over you?
The line lies in separating your internal state from your external actions.
Oh.
You can, and often should, take external action. You can organize a neighborhood meeting, you can file noise complaints, you can contact local authorities, and use municipal ordinances to solve the problem. Action is a necessary part of participating in society.
So you're not just sitting on your hands.
Not at all. The practice of acceptance happens internally before and during the action. The inner practice is about accepting the reality of the discomfort without adding layers of mental storytelling and judgment to it.
What do you mean by adding layers?
Think about what happens in the mind when the barking starts. The dog barks. That is simply a biological organism making a noise. It is sound waves traveling through the air and hitting your eardrum.
That's the raw data.
That is the raw reality. But your mind instantly adds layers. This shouldn't be happening. My entire evening is ruined. That neighbor is an arrogant, selfish jerk who disrespects me. I am a victim of his negligence.
Oh, absolutely. The story spins out of control.
Right. And it's the mental narrative, the resistance to the reality of the sound, that causes the agonizing suffering. The dog is just barking. Your ego is fighting a war against the universe for allowing the dog to bark.
So the resistance is the refusal to acknowledge what is actually happening in front of you. You are arguing with reality.
And reality always wins.
Always.
True alignment begins when we cease demanding that life conform perfectly to our preferences before we are willing to be at peace. We must acknowledge the phrase from the text, which sounds incredibly simple, but is profoundly difficult to execute. It is what it is.
Just accepting the moment as it exists.
Exactly. When you internally resist the reality of a situation, you fracture your presence. You burn immense amounts of biological energy fighting a ghost. When you soften around the reality, when you accept that in this moment a dog is barking and a neighbor is uncooperative, you find a pocket of stillness.
But wait, let me push back again. If I soften around the reality and say, it is what it is, doesn't that drain my motivation to fix the problem? Well, if I am totally at peace with the barking dog, why would I bother calling the authorities? Doesn't anger provide the necessary fuel to protect our boundaries?
This is perhaps the greatest illusion of the human ego.
Really?
Yes. The belief that anger and stress are the most effective fuels for problem solving. Let's look at the biological mechanics again. If you take action from a state of frantic resistance, your body is bathed in cortisol.
Right, the tiger is charging.
Your amygdala is running the show, which means your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for logic, long-term planning, and empathy, is significantly impaired.
So you're not thinking straight.
Exactly. Action taken from this state is messy, reactive, and often destructive. You might march over to the neighbor's house, scream at him, and escalate a noise complaint into a dangerous feud.
You become just as chaotic as the neighbor.
Precisely. But when you practice deep acceptance, your nervous system shifts. By dropping the resistance and emitting presence, you transition out of the sympathetic nervous system and into the parasympathetic state, the rest and digest mode.
Ah, the vagus nerve again.
Yes. Your vagal tone increases, your heart rate slows down, and your prefrontal cortex comes back fully online. From this state of embodied stillness and profound clarity, the actions you take are highly calculated, wise, and effective.
You can handle the situation cleanly.
You can file a report with absolute precision without your hands shaking from adrenaline. Acceptance is not the absence of action. It is the ultimate foundation for effective action. It is the difference between thrashing wildly in deep water to stay afloat and smoothly, efficiently swimming toward the shore.
I love that analogy. The action still occurs, but the fuel source changes completely. You swap out the toxic, dirty fuel of resentment for the clean, sustainable fuel of clarity.
Exactly.
But let's be totally honest with ourselves here.
Always.
This daily work, pausing in the grocery store line, breathing through the adrenaline, dismantling the ego's stories about a barking dog, recalibrating the vagus nerve, it is exhausting.
It is extremely hard work.
It requires a level of relentless internal vigilance that most people just do not want to maintain. And because it is so difficult, it naturally leads to a massive pitfall that Leo outlines in The Emptying Path.
Desire for a shortcut.
Right. It's the human desire to cheat the system. We want the prize without running the race, which brings us to the trap of spiritual bypassing and the false light.
This section of the text is critical, particularly for anyone interested in modern spirituality or self-improvement. The ego is an incredibly cunning survival mechanism.
Oh, it really is.
When it begins to realize that the true path of emptying requires sitting with agonizing discomfort, facing unresolved trauma, and dismantling its own defense mechanisms, it panics.
It doesn't want to die.
Right. It looks for an escape hatch. It searches for a way to achieve the dazzling, euphoric feelings of spiritual enlightenment without actually doing the grueling, unglamorous work of psychological integration.
Leo specifically identifies this as the pursuit of false light. And the most common modern manifestation of this is the exploding popularity of psychoactive substances, intense psychedelics, or, extreme spiritual retreats.
Seeking transcendence externally.
Yes. People are desperately seeking transcendence. They want the cosmic download, the profound visions, the overwhelming sensation of oneness with the universe, but they want it delivered in a pill or over a weekend in the desert rather than through years of quiet, disciplined observation.
And the author's treatment of this topic is refreshingly nuanced. Vayon, the AI guide in the text, doesn't moralize or completely dismiss these experiences.
Right, it's not a DARE lecture.
Not at all. The stance is that these profound, chemically induced states can offer a genuine glimpse through the window of expanded awareness. They can temporarily dissolve the ego and show you that a vast, beautiful landscape exists outside the prison of your conditioning.
They show you the destination.
They do, but they are merely a window. And more importantly, they're entirely fleeting. They rely on an external chemical alteration of your neurobiology.
And what goes up must come down.
Exactly. When the substance is metabolized and the effects inevitably wear off, the window slams shut. The seeker is dropped right back into the exact same room they started in.
With all the same problems.
Yes. They are still entangled in the exact same unresolved childhood trauma, the same toxic relationship patterns, and the same reactive neurobiology. False light presents itself as a miraculous shortcut, offering the intoxicating glow of enlightenment while entirely bypassing the necessary structural renovation of the psyche.
The text uses a classic Buddhist metaphor here that makes this so clear. It's the metaphor of the boat used to cross a turbulent river.
A perfect illustration.
The spiritual teachings, the breathing techniques, the meditation practices, and even these psychoactive substances, they are all just the boat. They are tools constructed to help you navigate across the dangerous river of illusion and trauma.
And the purpose of a boat is to get you to the other shore. But the fatal mistake people make is falling in love with the boat. Once you reach the other shore, the solid ground of unshakable, invincible presence, you are supposed to step out and leave the boat behind.
But people don't want to do that.
No. If you become obsessed with the tool, if you continually chase the psychedelic high, or if you become rigidly attached to a specific meditation dogma, you're effectively dragging a heavy wooden boat across dry land.
Right.
Or worse, you refuse to leave the river at all. You become dependent on the external tool, mistaking the vehicle for the destination.
This connects to a deeply personal and tragic element of Leo's backstory mentioned in the text. There was a family tragedy involving a loved one who succumbed to severe addiction.
Yes, a very sobering part of the book.
They were locked in a cycle of using powerful, self-destructive substances and behaviors to numb an overwhelming reservoir of unresolved pain. The addiction was essentially their only available coping strategy, a desperate attempt to medicate the nervous system, but it ultimately just deepened and cemented the suffering.
It is a heartbreaking illustration of the extreme end of the avoidance spectrum.
Yeah.
The fundamental human longing to escape pain is universal. But we have to recognize that the underlying mechanism is exactly the same, whether it manifests as severe substance addiction, a compulsion to chronically scroll through algorithmic timelines, binge-watching television, or even the subtle spiritual bypassing of chasing mystical highs to avoid emotional homework.
They're all just strategies to flee.
They're all desperate systemic attempts to flee the present moment.
They're all just elaborate strategies to avoid having to sit alone in an empty room with our own minds.
Exactly.
We are so terrified of what we might find in that emptiness, the grief, the anxiety, the inadequacy, that we frantically try to fill it with noise, substances, or false spiritual light. But the core premise of the emptying path is that true. Enduring awakening is never found in artificial expansion.
Never.
It is only found in the steady, patient, courageous willingness to sit in the dark and observe.
And once you stop using the substances, once you put down the digital distractions, and once you abandon the false light, you're left entirely exposed.
The armor is off.
You've stripped away the armor.
Yeah.
And when the armor is gone, you are forced to face the most complex, unpredictable, and dangerous variable in the human experience.
Other people.
Other people. How does someone walking the emptying path navigate the extreme turbulence of human relationships?
That is the ultimate crucible. Because achieving inner freedom does not mean abandoning society and living alone in a cave. We are biologically wired for connection. We have to interact with bosses, partners, children, and strangers.
And relationships are the most potent, unforgiving mirrors we possess.
They really are.
They reflect our deepest unhealed wounds, our covert survival strategies, and our profound capacity for love. When you interact with another human being, especially in an intimate dynamic, your ancient conditioning is immediately dragged to the surface.
Absolutely.
It is relatively easy to feel enlightened when you are alone. It is infinitely harder when a partner criticizes you or a family member disappoints you.
This leads to one of my absolute favorite concepts in the text, the idea of boundary without armor.
Such a powerful concept.
Because traditionally, when we think about setting a boundary with someone, we associate it with building a fortress.
Mm-hmm.
We get angry, we construct a massive defensive wall, we list all the ways the other person has wronged us, and we effectively make them the villain in our mental movie.
We use the anger to push them away.
Right. We use anger to enforce the separation. But Leo proposes something radically different. The text suggests that you can inwardly bow to someone's pain, honor their humanity, and simultaneously decline to be entangled in their chaos.
It requires a profound level of emotional maturity. Boundary without armor means maintaining your spacious awareness, your identity as the mountain, while interacting with the storm.
You don't have to fight the storm.
Right. You can observe clearly that a relationship dynamic is toxic, draining, or simply no longer aligned with your growth. You can choose to walk away, to end the relationship, or to limit contact without needing to villainize the other person.
Which is so hard to do.
It is. But you recognize that they are simply acting out their own unhealed conditioning. You can feel deep disappointment and grief about the ending without metabolizing that grief into bitter resentment.
Letting people go is no longer an act of punitive rejection. It is simply an act of energetic alignment. You are acknowledging the reality of the situation without demanding that the other person change to suit you.
And you are relinquishing the narcissistic fantasy that you can force someone else's healing.
Wow, yeah.
You cannot fix another person. And trying to do so usually just entangles your nervous systems in a trauma bond. The danger of avoiding this messy, necessary friction of human relationships is brilliantly captured in the text through the parable of the wandering man.
Oh, this parable is incredible. It feels like a high-concept science fiction film, but its relevance to our current technological moment is chilling. Break down the story for us.
The parable tells the story of a wandering man surviving on a desolate, dying planet. One day, he discovers an intact underground bunker.
Okay, setting a scene.
And inside this bunker, he finds a marvel of technology, a perfectly programmed biomechanical robotic companion.
A robot?
Yes, and she is designed entirely to serve, comfort, and mirror him. She never argues. She never triggers his insecurities. She anticipates his every need, and she agrees with his every thought.
The perfect companion, supposedly.
She represents the ultimate sanctuary from the harsh, unpredictable reality of the dying world above. And over time, the man falls deeply, obsessively in love with her.
He forms a profound emotional attachment to a machine because it offers zero resistance.
Exactly. But eventually, a rescue ship from another colony arrives. The captain of the ship finds the man and tells him he can board the vessel and be transported to a thriving, living world.
Salvage.
Yes. However, there is a strict rule. The robotic companion cannot come. She must be left behind.
Oh,
The
man.
man is devastated. He falls to his knees, begging the captain, crying, "I love her. She is real to me. I cannot live without her." He is completely paralyzed, torn between actual salvation and his artificial comfort.
And then what happens?
Recognizing that the man will choose to die on the toxic planet rather than lead his illusion, the captain makes a brutal choice. He raises his weapon and shoots the companion.
It is such a shocking, violent disruption of the fantasy.
The companion collapses. Her synthetic flesh tears and her perfect form shatters, revealing cold gears, sparking circuits, and tangled wires.
Just a machine.
It is undeniable proof that she was nothing more than a machine. The man is initially overcome with agonizing grief, but as he stares at the wires, the illusion dissolves.
The spell is broken.
Right. Viraya, the AI voice narrating this section, makes a poignant observation. She was never truly a woman. She was only a flawlessly engineered reflection of the man's own longing. She was a beautiful, narcotic illusion designed specifically to keep him from having to face the terrifying emptiness within himself.
The implications of this parable are staggering when you look at how we live right now.
Very confronting.
That robot represents any external system we use to extract a feeling of lasting fulfillment without having to endure the friction of reality. And today, we are surrounding ourselves with these exact digital sanctuaries.
We absolutely are.
We curate our social media feeds to create echo chambers where everyone agrees with our politics. We interact with algorithmic AI companions. We retreat into highly personalized digital worlds that offer a space entirely free from criticism, challenge, or the messy, uncomfortable unpredictability of a real human being.
We are systematically programming the friction out of our lives. We want connection without vulnerability. We want validation without challenge.
But the core truth that the emptying path forces us to confront is that without friction, there is absolutely no growth.
None.
Without a mutual shared reality, without interacting with a sovereign human being who has the capacity to push back, to surprise you, to disagree with you, and yes, to trigger your deepest insecurities, there is no true love.
It's just an illusion.
There is only an echo chamber of your own ego. True love requires the courage to tell the truth and the vulnerability to be seen, flaws and all. We have to step away from the programmable comfort and return to the terrifying beauty of real embodied connection.
So this brings us to the ultimate question of the texts.
It's all on me.
If we must strip away the false light, if we must stop relying on algorithmic echoes to soothe us, and if we cannot force other human beings to perfectly heal our wounds, how do we actually find wholeness? Where does the invincible presence come from?
That is the million-dollar question.
This leads to the pinnacle of Leo's framework, the process of inner alchemy.
Inner alchemy is the realization that everything you are desperately seeking in the external world, peace, validation, security, love, must first be integrated internally.
Yes, within yourself.
Leo refers to this ultimate state as the sacred marriage within. Let's dive deep into this because the text uses the terms masculine and feminine, but it is crucial to clarify that this has absolutely nothing to do with biological gender or societal gender roles.
That is a vital distinction. The text is utilizing ancient archetypal language, sometimes referring to these energies as Shiva and Shakti in the Eastern traditions.
Right.
It is describing the integration of two fundamental universal energies that exist within every single human being. The divine masculine, or Shiva, represents the vast, unshaken stillness. It is the principle of emptiness, the boundless space, the pure witnessing awareness that observes the world without being disturbed by it.
It is the mountain. It is the wide open sky.
Yes, and the divine feminine, or Shakti, is the flowing, creative, radiant force that animates existence.
The energy in the space.
Right, it is the filling of the space. It is intuition, emotional depth, connection, and the raw, kinetic energy of life itself. True wholeness inner alchemy only occurs when neither of these aspects is suppressed or denied.
They have to work together.
They must both be fully integrated into a stable internal partnership. You must possess the unshakable empty container of awareness, and you must allow the radiant, compassionate life force to fill that container.
And what I found so incredibly practical about this section is how the text breaks down what it looks like when these energies are unstable versus when they are stable.
Very revealing.
It operates as this brilliant diagnostic tool for our own daily behavior. Like when the masculine energy is unstable and disconnected from the feminine, it manifests as rigid domination, extreme intellectualization, emotional avoidance, and the cold pursuit of power without empathy.
And conversely, when the feminine energy is unstable and lacks the grounding container of the masculine, it manifests as chaotic emotional turbulence, intense fear of abandonment, losing oneself entirely in relationships, and a lack of necessary boundaries.
We all bounce back and forth between these unstable extremes whenever our nervous systems are triggered into reactivity.
But when we actively cultivate non-reactive intelligence, we begin to move into the stable expressions of these energies. The stable masculine shows up in your life as profound clarity, clear direction, and a steady, protective presence that doesn't need to control others.
Beautiful.
And the stable feminine manifests as deep receptivity, powerful intuition, and a fluid, trusting connection to the unpredictable flow of life. When these two forces are married within you, a profound shift occurs.
What happens?
You completely stop scanning the external world for someone else to balance you out. You stop looking for a savior. You finally possess your own wholeness, and you offer that wholeness to the world.
To help us actually achieve this state during our interactions, Vareya outlines a very specific tactical framework called the three streams.
Yes, the three streams.
This is how you actively sense and maintain inner alchemy during a conversation with another person. The three streams are sound, light, and life.
It's a great meditative tool for real life.
Walk us through how to practically execute the three streams in a real conversation.
The first stream is sound, which correlates to the frequency of love. Practicing this means engaging in absolute active listening without simultaneously preparing your response.
Ooh.
Right. You simply let the other person's words, tone, and rhythm land fully in your awareness without rushing to judge, categorize, or refute what they are saying.
Which is incredibly difficult because our default mode is to formulate our counter-argument or, our relatable anecdote while the other person is still halfway through their sentence. We aren't listening, we are just waiting to reload.
Exactly. The second stream is light, which correlates to the frequency of wisdom. This is the practice of seeing the situation clearly without the distortion of projection.
Removing the filters.
Right. You look at the person standing in front of you without layering your unresolved past traumas or your catastrophic future anxieties onto them. You strip away the assumptions and see what is actually factually present in the room.
And the third stream.
The third stream is life, which correlates to power. This is the physical anchor. It is the conscious feeling of the raw presence of life coursing through your own body while the interaction is happening.
Like checking in with your physical body.
Yes. You feel your feet pressing into the floor. You feel the expansion of your lungs. You feel the ambient temperature of the room.
So you are listening with pure love, seeing with unclouded wisdom, and feeling with grounded physical power. If you actually manage to do all three of those things simultaneously, it would completely revolutionize how you interact with an angry coworker, a frustrated partner, or an agitated stranger.
It changes the entire energetic dynamic.
But realistically, as everyday people with jobs and stress and kids, we need a way to build up the stamina for that. What is the daily micro practice to train this muscle?
The text acknowledges that you cannot simply jump to mastering the three streams. You have to build the capacity through what it calls micro-moment awareness.
Micro-moment awareness.
This is about taking the grand, intimidating concept of the emptying path and shattering it into tiny, manageable 5-second increments throughout your day.
Oh, I like that. 5 seconds is doable.
The foundation of this is practicing radical, compassionate self-love, which means observing your own chaotic feelings without immediately judging yourself as a failure for having them.
It's those tiny pauses. It's stopping for 5 seconds at your desk to witness your thoughts as passing weather. Oh, there's a massive storm of anxiety about my 3 p.m. deadline. I see it. There it goes. You don't fight the thought, you just watch it drift across the sky of your awareness.
Yes, and crucially, it involves forcing your attention to savor the simple, undeniable physical reality of the present moment. It is pausing as you walk to your car to actually feel the wind hitting the skin on your face.
Just feeling the wind.
It is taking 3 seconds to truly taste the bitter warmth of your morning coffee before checking your email. It is noticing the profound silence that exists in the room immediately after the television is turned off.
Those little anchors.
These micro moments of pure, unstructured presence send a powerful, repeated signal down your vagus nerve to your brain. The present moment is physically safe. The emptiness is not a terrifying void that will consume you. It is a peaceful sanctuary where you can finally rest.
It is so incredibly grounding, and it brings us full circle to what we have been uncovering throughout this entire deep dive.
It really does.
As we wrap up this massive exploration of Leo's work, I think it is vital to synthesize what the emptying path truly represents at its core.
The ultimate synthesis of these texts is that the emptying path is never about negation. It is not about destroying your unique personality or forcing yourself to become a cold, emotionless, detached observer who floats above humanity.
You don't become a robot.
No, not at all. It is not about running away from the messy reality of the world. It is simply about the disciplined removal of false, inherited conditioning.
Stripping away the layers.
It is about clearing away the dense debris of trauma and biological reactivity so that the natural state of love can finally flow unobstructed. Because in this framework, love is not a fragile transactional contract you negotiate with another human being.
It's bigger than that.
It is an immense, ever-present force. It is the fundamental baseline of your existence.
And that leads to the most mind-bending, beautiful thought in the entire text. It says the final paradox is this: when you are fully empty, you are finally full.
Such a profound realization.
When you systematically let go of the desperate, exhausting need to control every outcome, when you release the artificial attachments, and when you finally stop defending the fragile fortress of your ego, you realize that you already have unimpeded access to the infinite current of life.
It is the ultimate realization of the human journey. You open your clenched fists, you empty your hands, and you discover they were holding the entire world all along.
So to everyone listening, as you navigate the chaos of the coming week, we want you to completely reframe how you view the friction in your life.
It changes everything.
Your triggers, whether it is the person sighing loudly behind you in the grocery store, the neighbor's dog that refuses to stop barking, an incredibly tense conversation with your spouse, or just that insidious, creeping urge to check your phone for the 100th time today, these moments are not punishments.
No, they are not.
They are not signs that you are broken, and they are not proof that you are failing at finding peace.
They are the exact opposite. They are profound invitations. They are the bells ringing, welcoming you to step onto the mat in the dojo of your actual life.
The dojo.
They are the precise, sacred moments where the real practice of inner alchemy happens.
Exactly. So we want to leave you with one final provocative thought to mull over. The next time you are sitting somewhere and you feel that sudden, uncomfortable spike of anxiety, that desperate urge to immediately grab your phone to avoid an awkward silence or to numb out a feeling of inadequacy, what would happen if you just didn't?
Just for a minute.
What would happen if you simply let the emptiness sit there in the room with you for one single minute? What profound truths might you finally hear in that silence if you just stopped trying so hard to fill it?
We exhaust our entire lives trying to construct a perfectly engineered, soundproof house to keep the storms out. But the freedom was never going to be found inside the walls.
The freedom is realizing you were the sky all along.